So the areitos wasn't the only ceremony that they used dance, music, and instruments. They used it in several other ceremonies. They also had a ceremony to receive el casabe sagrado, so the holy casabe. And how this would work is that the cacique would call everybody to his cane. So the cane was la casa del cacique, or the cacique's home, and everybody would gather there. They would then sit down and the ceremony would begin, in which they would dance. So at some point after they danced, each participant was given a portion of casabe to take home with them. And this portion had to remain intact and kept in the home all year long. And they believed that this piece of casabe had to be brought intact. It couldn't break, or it would spell doom for the yucayeques. They also believed that if they didn't have this sacred piece of casabe in their homes could be exposed to dangers like fire and strong winds from hurricanes. So not every ceremony that the Taínos had included dance and music. They had another ceremony called Areitogua. And this ceremony was described by Pedro Martí de Angleria. And he says that the caciques would send out people, or pregoneros, to announce to the villagers to come to his cane. In front of the house of the cacique of the cane would be el batey. So this is kind of an example. The cane and then the batey would be in front. They found several shapes of bateys, some circular, some square or rectangle. But in the bateys where they had all of these ceremonies, they had areito, they had this one in particular. So in this particular ceremony, men, women, young, old would come to the calling of the cacique. I thought this image was pretty, so I'm going to include it. But they came appropriately dressed. They had to dress a certain way for this, even though it wasn't clothing, but it was headdresses. So they had headdresses of different herbs, of flowers. And on their arms, they would have bands with little shells on them that made noise. Similar to another ceremony, they would use a spatula and force themselves to vomit in order to purify their bodies. So they would sit in semicircle in front of their local semi, god or their ancestral spirit. They would bow down close to the ground as much as possible while still looking up to the semi. And trembling with great reverence, they would ask the semi for its blessing, basically.